Hi everyone. My name is Ana Tomilava and I am a sophomore here. I'm a math major and I'm um, currently in AS, and the reason why I wanted to go into this position because being a past senator in AS has been the biggest learning experience for me, at least. I know I'm only a sophomore, but in my freshman year, I've been involved in clubs, EOP, intramurals, and many things. But one of the many things that I actually wanted to play a role in was being a voice for the students. I know that definitely in my freshman year, I heard a lot of issues, but one of the main things that I could relate to from the students was the sense of community that our campus needed. Our campus needed a sense of belonging for every student, an inclusive environment from every single aspect of where the university comes from. And that is why I went into diversity senator, and that has really helped me expand my knowledge and has helped me just learn from just open my eyes to the real world and how things work outside of just here, including many things of not just being academics, but having the support from the university, having the support system that students need in order to be successful in their careers, and just having the classes to graduate in a proper time frame for how a student wants to go about and graduate in the 4 years. They want to just expand their options for them and have many different aspects into that. And one of the many things that I wanted to do in this position was working on class availability. I know it's an ongoing issue that I feel like it's never going to end, but one of the things that I wanted to contribute into that is being a diversity senator. Foreign language wasn't much of a priority on campus, and unless you were taking a GE, you can graduate without a foreign language. And I feel like living in such a diverse world, we need to be more aware of everything around us, not in just Sonoma State, but in nationally and universally. Also, sorry, I'm trying to breathe. But one of the many things that I wanted to be an advocate and be a representative for students. I love working with students and just being a voice, interacting with being in my position. I interact with many different ethnic clubs, hearing their opinion, just hearing their voice makes a huge difference in my perspective, and just reporting back to the Senate on how we can work together to resolve those issues that students have on campus, and advocating on behalf of the many programs that we need here on campus that can be expanded, such as advising. I know there's only so much that advising can do right now for 9,300 students, and just having the support from advising and expanding the resource into something that students can go to whenever they need the advice they want to seek, whenever they need the advice in order to be successful in their major, the advice they need to, if they're going through personal things. But I really believe that there's definitely the support that we need from the university, and just hearing the voice of students make a huge impact in AS. I also would want to work on just having working on different projects that can enhance student experiences, such as I believe that as part of our experience here in college is what's going on campus, and not just from academically, but just what creates an environment where everyone can feel at home.
Hi everyone, my name is Rachel McCluskey. I'm a junior and a communications major, so as some of the other candidates have said, thank you guys so much for coming. I know it means a lot to all of us. So I've spent the last year working in ASP, which for those of you that don't know, that's another department within AS. There's 5 branches of AS, and ASP is just one of the great ones that I worked for. So one of the big things that ASP does is advocate for students, and that is really what I would like to do as Executive Vice President, if elected. In ASP, you get the opportunity to create a lot of different relationships with different clubs, departments, of any really organizations on campus, and so I already have those relationships established, and so utilizing those relationships that I have to advocate for every student on campus, not just the ones that are like you guys and show up to these awesome meetings. So a few things that I'm really hoping to work on, like I said, advocating for students and kind of closing the gap that we all feel exists between the administration and the students. One thing that Francesca had said that I definitely agreed with was that we can't trust what the administration says, and I definitely agree with that. However, I also don't feel like we ever know what the administration says. I think a lot of times we have no idea what's going on, and one of the awesome things that the Executive Vice President position gets to do is sit in on a lot of meetings in the Academic Senate, the Provost, and a whole list of other ones with older men in suits, which can be a little scary. But because Executive Vice President gets to be there, I would get to let you guys know what's going on and utilize all the awesome school senators that we have to make sure that all students in every single major, even the ones that are smaller or the ones that are huge because they're so impacted, making sure that everyone really knows what's going on. And something that Anna had touched on was the struggle to get classes. That is something that all of us, especially those of us that are going to be here for 5 years, that's something that we all feel. So looking at the Academic Senate's budget and figuring out how we can reallocate it to make sure that there are more of those classes that are only offered once a year, because that is a little ridiculous, in my opinion. At least I don't know if you guys feel the same way. And then, using the resources that we have on campus, there's a lot of things that students don't know about. I mean, most people know about the Tutorial Center, but we have new programs that AS is creating every year, which is amazing. So figuring out how we can use those resources and looking at which ones we want to keep the funding for, maybe increase funding for, or decrease the ones that maybe aren't being used as much. So overall, like I said, advocating for students and using what I've learned in ASP, how to figure out exactly what our student needs are, not just socially, but academically as well, because that's why we're here. So that's what I think is most important. Well, as I kind of said in my opening statement, it's ridiculous when there is a class that is offered once a year that we all need to go up to our higher level classes. I know there's a lot of classes that are 200 or 300 level that you can either take once in the spring and there's 30 seats, and if you miss it, better luck next time, and you can stay here over summer, or you can take it again next year. So that's a huge issue, and if you miss one of those classes, you're put off an entire year, which plays into that 4-year graduation rate. Graduation. That's funny. Sorry. So looking into the Academic Senate budget, and things here on Sonoma State's campus, as you all know, happen pretty slowly. So figuring out maybe, all right, if something's only offered once a year, let's get it offered twice a year. That's a small step, but hey, that's 30 more students that would get to take that class, and 30 more students that would get to graduate on time. And then if something is offered twice a semester, right, or once a semester right now, let's get it offered twice a semester. So these small steps, I think, is what our administration needs from us to kind of get more classes going at a slow pace, but it's still pace. It's still happening, which is good. So hopefully we can make that happen and make that 4-year graduation rate, almost said it again, get back up to where it needs to be. I was talking to a friend, and she said right now she knows more people that are staying an extra year than are graduating on time, which I definitely don't think is okay. College is supposed to be a 4-year thing. When I was in kindergarten, that was what I expected, and that's what we deserve.
The class availability is a huge issue, especially here. And I know that some classes, especially foreign language, it's only, I know that the main ones are just Spanish and French, if only you're taking a GE, but other than that, the other classes they do offer doesn't come every semester. And some of the issues that I have come across is some students don't get the advice they need in order to take the right classes in order to graduate. And I know it's like, especially the impacted majors such as psychology, they have to really seek advice in order to get it. And I think that shouldn't be the case for students to really have to go through a lot just to get the resource they need in order to graduate in 4 years especially. And for example, I am a math major, and since it's such a low percentage, I get one-on-one advising, and not everyone is privileged enough to get that because they're in psychology or a business major. And that's one of the issues that I want to really work on, is expanding the resource that students need in order to really get the advice they need to take the right classes, to really work on the classes they need in order to graduate in 4 years.
Every year, Sonoma State is accepting more and more students, but we are not adding more and more classes to match that, and that seems like an issue. You know, my younger sister got into Sonoma State this year. I was super proud of her, but we also had a 93% acceptance rate. So hopefully, as Executive Vice President, I'll be able to work with our new president that was just selected and the rest of the administration and the Academic Senate to look at, all right, 93%, like super glad people are applying to Sonoma, but maybe if we're going to add a bunch more students, let's add at least 2 more classes as well.
I think the first thing I would work on is trying to work in hand with the new president. Having her support would make a great difference in the issues that we have, especially she's starting a new chapter, and it would make a huge difference to just have the issues that we think that needs to be worked on, such as class availability, and foreign language would definitely something I would want to go into, because being a diversity senator, it's not really a priority in some cases, and that is one thing that I would want to start off with, and that could play a huge role in just class availability, because that would have more options for students, and it would make a huge difference for students to take more classes that they want to take, especially for GEs and incoming freshmen, because I know a lot of incoming freshmen are struggling with trying to take the GEs right now, and sometimes the classes they do want to take are not available for them, and that would be one of the main things that I would work on.
Well, May 13th is pretty close to the end of the year, so students, most of us aren't here over summer, so I think that time is really the best time to focus, sorry, my guest is running, to focus on the relationship with Dr. Sakati, as she said, but then also developing those relationships that aren't already developed with the faculty and staff, so that during the summer we can start having that conversation about spring classes and spring registration, because by fall, summer, everyone's already registered for their classes. So I think utilizing that summer period to really focus on those relationships, because the faculty, most of them are all still here, and we'll be here as well. So focusing on those relationships, and then also figuring out what steps we need to take over summer to make our campus feel inclusive. I know a lot of people say that diversity is one of the biggest issues we have on campus, as she was saying, and I definitely agree. But as Executive Vice President, we don't control who gets into Sonoma. We can only control how people feel, or not control, but assist, I guess, how people feel. So making sure that we're figuring out the best way over summer, how can we make our campus feel like an inclusive place where everyone feels like this is a safe space for them to express how they feel and express what they want to do, and that they have that opportunity to do what they want to do in our community. So just focusing on, making this a more inclusive campus over summer. Things take a long time to get done here, like I said. So we have those whole 3 months of June, July, and August to figure that out, especially with the freshman orientation happening. They would be a great place to start, teaching them how we can make this a safe space, and then they're going to be the groundwork for the next 4 years. So hopefully getting an opportunity to talk to the new freshmen about what our goal is for this campus and how we want it to feel, and just making sure that we're taking advantage of the time we have.
I definitely agree with starting with the freshmen, because they come into college thinking that it will be, they have high expectations basically, and I feel like as EVP I will work to the best of my abilities into trying to meet those expectations. I know that freshmen feel that need to have that sense of belonging, to have just working with different organizations such as ASP, the clubs that would make a huge difference in those freshmen's life, and working with different organizations and clubs would make a huge difference, and just working together would make a greater impact than just having me work as just by myself, because I always believe that I think that the sense of belonging comes within us, and it takes a whole cultural change just for it to make a difference.
Well, I will be candid with you all. I don't think any of us completely understand class policy or all of Sonoma State policy. That there's a lot that goes into that. So over summer, I'm going to do my best, if elected, to really look through that and figure out, what are these policies that I don't totally understand, and how can we get them into a language that students understand. And then once school starts back up again, really working with those school senators, I think that's one of the best tools we have on campus, is that every school has its own senator and has its own student representative that sits on its own committees, but then also is connected to the executive vice president. So they have the opportunity to learn everything that I, if elected, would learn in those meetings with the academic senate. So as I said, the first step is definitely making sure I understand everything, because it's a lot of language that is very confusing to all of us. Reworking it to make sure that it's in language we can all understand, because we are all in college, we're all very smart, but sometimes it's a little ridiculous. And then working with those school senators to say, all right, how can we make sure that everyone in your school understands what's happening and understands that policy? Because I would love to go into every single major and every single class and talk to every single student on campus, but I don't think that's possible. But we have all these people that are so dedicated to Sonoma State and are here to advocate for you guys, and that's really all of our goal, is to advocate for the students and let you guys know what is going on. It's that gap I was talking about earlier, the gap between administration and the academic senate and the students. So really just focusing on closing that and letting everyone know, all right, here's what's actually going on in Sonoma State in language that we all understand.
Honestly, using the resources we already have, using the library, advising center, tutorial center, and just going into those places that can reach more people, more students, connecting with Res Life, because I know that my CSA helped me on my freshman year with classes, and that's, even though that not a lot of students utilize that, but it'll make a huge difference for students just to learn the things that are happening around them, that are happening around their campus, and just using connecting with clubs and organizations that are truly interested in knowing more about these policies and are willing to actually play a role in outreach, especially in outreach to the students. And I feel that if students are actually passionate about knowing those, they would also play their role as coming to AS and our Senate meetings. You learn a lot from just sitting in those Senate meetings. So just sometimes holding students accountable for their actions, because I know sometimes students just think that we can only do so much as the AS Senate, but utilizing just everything around us, like she said, the senators for every school, they connect with their deans, and just connecting with the senators for community affairs, the special interest senators for diversity, and there's a lot of resources around us that we sometimes just overlook them, that it plays a huge role in how we can outreach to more students.
But I think one thing important that you said was utilizing the resources that we have. We have this huge screen out here now, and I don't think we want to have a bunch of words with policy on it, but maybe letting students know where they can find that out or how they can find that out. I know we all get like 25 emails from the school every week, and I think I maybe read about 2 of them. And that's one of the main ways that students are getting given information right now, is sent out through emails that no one really reads. So maybe figuring out a way that we don't send everything out through emails, whether it's using Seawolf Living, which I know that students are trying to use a lot more, students are starting to use a lot more now, I would say. And OrgSync is a thing that is trying to happen. Figuring out, all right, what is your favorite way of communicating? And I know that I prefer to just stand out in the quad and talk to people, and I know that I also hate walking by those tables, so maybe that would be the way to do it. But trying different things and seeing ways we can communicate with people and let them know what that policy is, other than just sending it out.
Being an advocate for students, that means being the voice of students when faculty sometimes they don't agree with some of the things that we want, but just being optimistic in my goal and just pushing forward even though there's so many obstacles and struggles that they put students through, and just having that mindset set on my goal, and just having that mindset that once I do have a goal that advocates for students, just never losing focus on what's ahead of me and what I'm actually advocating for, and being an effective representative for students. Just hearing the different sides of how faculty want things, but bringing that back to students, but also just voicing the students' voice and being an advocate and representing students to the best of my abilities.
I think that a lot of the reason that issues happen is the lack of communication that Francesca was talking about. We often get upset when something happens on campus that we didn't know was going to be a thing. I know, like, Global Vision for a while, I know we're all like, yay, it's awesome, a great advertising tool now. But for a while, there was a solid week where I think every single person, that's all we talked about in our classes, because everyone is so upset about it. So as a liaison, I would want to let students know what's going on before issues are even created. And then if an issue did arise, again, working with those school senators to talk to not every single student, but a majority of students, and figuring out what's a solution you think can happen, what would you like to see on campus, or what would have made this better. So coming up with preventative solutions. So if there is some huge issue that arises, thinking, all right, this happened, there's nothing we can do about it now, let's move on, and thinking, all right, how can we make sure that this doesn't happen again in the future? And if it is something that's an ongoing issue, such as a fee or something else that students do know is going to happen and they're unhappy about it, like Anna said, just being an advocate for students and not being afraid to say what the students want to be said in those meetings with the academic senate. Like I said, those meetings, from what I've heard, are with a lot of older big men in suits, which is like the opposite of us, which can be a little intimidating. But we have to say what students need to be heard. We are that liaison. We would be that one person. And if it's up to us, that is a lot of responsibility, but that's what we're signing up for right now. And that's what we both clearly want to do since we're here. So making sure that we are ready for students' voice to be heard and ready to say what needs to be said. And we're not going to get our feelings hurt, but we're going to get stuff done.
It's very intimidating to be in a room with people with PhDs, and here you are trying to work on. I'm just a sophomore in college, but it's the whole point is putting your foot down and letting them know that they wouldn't be here without us. The students it should be the center of attention for most of the decisions they make. The students should be the main purpose of every decision they make. Every decision they make should make they should think about the students instead of just making decisions without thinking of what they're actually putting the students through. And I think being a liaison to as an EVP, I think it's just letting students be aware of what's going on around us, and being a voice in many of the meetings that we go through, being advocate no matter how intimidating they may be, but I feel like just knowing when to actually put your foot down and like just go through whatever whatever they are pushing towards the students, and I know that may be hard, but I feel like that's exactly what we signed up for, and we wouldn't sign up for the EVP position if we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. And yeah.
I think that we all come to college obviously for academics, but when you are younger and you're thinking about college, that's not what we're thinking about. You know, oh, I'm so excited to take this Geology 200 class. Like, I'm really looking forward to it. It's the college experience. That is really what it's about. And you know, over the past 3 years, I've been a pretty involved person. I got involved like before school even started in ASP, in a Greek organization, in comms department outlets. So I have been that involved since day one. So it's not going to be something new for me. I think, sorry, my train of thought just drove away. But yeah, I mean, I think it's about that experience. So knowing that we are here for academics, but we, as we both said, we know what we're signing up for. You know, this is something that we really want to do and want to spend our time on and put our 125% effort into. So yes, it is a lot, but I think we're both aware of that, especially both of us having AS backgrounds. And I think that it will be a challenge, but now is the time to do something challenging. We're in college, this is the time to try our hardest at everything we do, and if we make mistakes along the way, we have the rest of our CEOL community here to support us. So.
I think you never know what you're going to go through in this position unless you're actually in it. And I think that's why it was such a learning experience for me as a diversity senator right now, because I honestly did it because I was passionate about it. So I feel like this position, you had to really have the passion and the thrive to actually make change, to be an advocate for students, to be the voice of the students, and to have that, to push through that fear of just being a student, but actually being, having a difference and having a voice would make a huge impact. And like she said, sorry.
Oh, it's always my train of thought rolled away too. So.
I feel like that being in this position would definitely make us grow, not personally, but as just in this position, it will develop our skills into something more than what we were the year before, and that's why I wanted to move up as a diversity senator, because having the experience, I know what not to do. I need to learn from my mistakes that I have done, and just the mistakes that happens through the Senate, and making the Senate a more effective way to be a voice for the students. I think the only thing that we can do is voicing those concerns, not only in the many meetings that we sit in, but even voicing it to the president, because that has been a big issue that I've come across as well, is where students struggle with getting the classes they need, and getting the resource they need in order to graduate in 4 years. And as a freshman, it's not always easy to overcome those obstacles that you come in thinking that everything's gonna go smoothly, but just voicing those concerns, and I think that it plays a huge role in no matter how much that students go through, that it's important for us to voice those concerns and just work together as an university where they can make the students' experience, enhance those student experience, and make the student experience memorable for them.
Well, you definitely have an interesting perspective as a peer mentor and as a summer bridge leader. So you've like firsthand seen that struggle of people breaking down, which I'm sure we've all had a friend who's cried for hours during registration because they got 4 units. And you kind of bring up an interesting issue of the whole registration crisis. No one can ever get classes. And that's something we need to work on. So I'm, going to be honest, I'm not sure how we can fix it, but I'm more than willing to figure out exactly what we need to do, because I know if you only get 13 units and that's all you get, you have a bad registration time next semester, which just keeps you in that endless cycle of doom where you never get classes and you're here for 17 years. So maybe one step we could take is, small steps, like I said before. So maybe identifying specific classes would be our first step. So what classes have 25 people on the wait list versus what class have 37 million people on the wait list? And that's the one we can say, hey, maybe we should open another section for this since there's 37 million people on the wait list. So small steps, I think that's the best way our administration works, is going slowly, but surely. The slow tortoise wins the race, I think. Yeah, I really think, and like she said, all we can do is voice our opinion, advocate for students, so letting them know, all right, this class, we need at least 500 more sections.
Just going off what she said, it definitely is, it's a struggle when you try to advocate for those things and you're constantly being pushed back because they're gonna raise fees or there's always an excuse, always. And I feel like just pushing through those excuses and be like putting our foot down and yeah, we want more classes. We need these resources in order to graduate in 4 years. Just advocating that our student fees money are being put to the best of their abilities, so that it's being used wisely, not just being thrown around. But just advocating for those factors.
So honestly, last year we only had 20% of students vote, which is really, really sad. So I would say whether you were going to vote for myself or for Anna based off of everything we just said, really just go out and vote. That is the most important thing at this point. It is amazing that you all came. So please tell your friends how awesome we all sounded up here with our, sniffling noses or sick voices. But voting is super important. As we both said 1,000 times, we want to advocate for students, closing that gap, like I've said, and figuring out how we can make communication possible, and whether it is starting with small steps and working to the bigger ones, that's probably the way we have to do it. And I'm by far willing to say what has to be said in those meetings with the big scary men in suits, and not being afraid of saying exactly what you guys need to be heard. So please, please, please go out and vote. It's super important. We're here for you guys. And thank you so much for coming.
Just want to thank you again. I know that this year's candidates for the Senate has been very exciting. I don't think I was that excited last year. Most of the positions were unopposing, so this year was very, I think for most of us that are running again, it was just exciting to compete, to mingle with you all, especially in the meet and greet. It was it was just interacting with students and just knowing that we are here for you all. That is I think that's the whole reason why AS is here, because we advocate on your behalf. We listen to you guys, and I don't think you guys know how much your voices make a huge impact in this university. Your voices make, if it's just from one person to 9,300 students, your voices, it counts, basically. And I know that every vote counts, every voice counts, and it's just a matter of you all taking 5 minutes out of your day just to voice your concerns, vote, because I know that we both are here for the same reasons. We're very excited on whoever is going to do it, but I think it's just the matter of us being here for you all, the matter of us being a trustworthy, working with you all and connecting and making relationships with you all. And I don't think this, I know sometimes it may be intimidating to work with us, but because we're all always dressed up, but I feel like that's part of why of learning for the real world is just keeping everything professional, yet we're knowing that we're here for students.